Hello and welcome to Storymakers. My name is Arsh, and today I am joined by a visionary leader who has created a massive impact in both education and innovation in India. Dr. Ajeenkya DY Patil, it is such an honor to have you here on the podcast with us.
Likewise.
I'd love to start at the beginning. If you could give us the story, how it started, where it started, what got you into the place that you are today. We understand you have a bit of a family background in the educational sector as well. So if you could give us that brief starting point.
So would you like me to start with the campus, or would you like me to start as how I was as a child?
As a child would be a good starting point, yes.
So then I'll have to go back because I'm a little older than you. A few more years on my head. So I don't know, I had this intense desire since the age of, say, 11, 12, to do something good for humanity. So that was something which was ingrained in me. I didn't know what. Because I looked at poverty, I looked at a lot of sadness around, and these things affected me emotionally greatly. And I always thought that you can make a difference to this, and you should make a difference to it. You see inspiring leaders, and then you want to follow in their tracks. My father, by himself, was pretty inspiring. But overall, I had this great inspiration to change humanity for the good. And this started at a very young age, and I didn't understand why. So perhaps it's something which is ingrained. And I still remember when I was in the 10th grade, we used to live opposite the sea. And I used to stare at the sea in the night with the moonlight reflecting. And I used to imagine that I'll create some change, I'll do some good. And it was almost like a spiritual sort of a calling. So where it came from, I don't know. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be a scientist. Because I was very good at tech when tech didn't exist. Grown up in the digital age. Yes. We grew up in the analog age. And I wanted to be a scientist, so I tried my best. I would give ideas to my parents, talk to them. And they used to think, what is this? Because they didn't understand what satellites were. And it was not very easily discussed when we had to make lightning calls for people who don't have telephone systems. And I was talking about things like the internet connections, modems. So there was some inspiration coming from somewhere. I don't know whether it was the sci-fi movies I watched or the comics I read, but something was ingrained, and that led me to this greater good concept. And even today, I feel that everything that you do has to touch and evolve into something that enhances someone else's life. So wealth creation is excellent. I'm not against wealth creation at all. One must have wealth because with wealth only you can do so many things. Of course, without wealth also there are people doing so many things. But I think it empowers you to even do better. So I think it was something like a childhood thing.
It's inspiring because you hear, adults talking about being visionaries, right? To change the world for the better. You don't hear a 10-year-old thinking about it, which is, I think, a very key differentiator between, people who make the difference and people who just think about making the difference. But I think that's a great answer.
So you told me I'll try. You always have a vision and a dream of sort of helping the world and changing for the better. Right. This requires a certain amount of ethics, a certain amount of discipline at a very, very young age. What are some of the sort of lifelong learning sort of things that you would recommend now to the younger league?
So I think perhaps it's also a consequence of your surrounding. I think your parents play a very important role in how you shape up and the values they instill in you. And we were brought up in a very strict upbringing. Strict in a sense, it was not regimental, but in a certain way to respect elders, have those core values, to respect each other as humans and always work towards a better, greater good, like financial value. So I think that's what everything started with. And my father's been a great inspiration, because he wanted to get into private education since the 70s. However, he was active in politics, and one day suddenly he gave up politics and he said, I want to start educational institutions. And this was again through some inspiration from some spiritual dreams he got. He believes in a saint called Gajanan Maharaj, and he was the one who came in his dreams and guided him. So, however strange it may sound, but through a dream he got this inspiration to start educational institutions. And he struggled because private education didn't exist in the state. private education only existed in Karnataka, where TNA Pai started the Pahelia institution. Then my father was inspired by Dr. Pal, so he used to visit the MCA, and he wanted to emulate him in many ways. So he always, in fact, we have Dr. Pai's pictures of our campuses even today. So that's how he struggled. So I think that is a resilience, consistency. He started his first institution.
Yeah.
So a lot of struggle, a lot of hard work. And I saw that. Physically, I saw that. Mentally, I understood what he meant and those trials, tribulations. So that sort of also set my path onto that. But I always, like I said, I wanted to be a scientist.
Yeah.
I never wanted to go into education. But that inspired that here is this human trying to do something good for humanity. I didn't understand why he was doing it, but because I was too young to understand the depth of his plan. So that's really how it's.
Wonderful. And actually, that is that you've, on a daily basis, right? You have thousands of students that are then, each one of their individual campuses. You have thousands of staff. There's such a big organization that is running. And, obviously that does require a certain amount of leadership and vision, and, as you said. But I think, like you said, continuous learning, I think that plays a pivotal role. Would you agree?
So I think if you translate the Sanskrit word shiksha, shiksha means learning at every moment. And it's very well encapsulated in the word itself. So it is a process of continuous learning. The day you feel that you know it all, I think you've developed an ego and probably you want process any more data, and that's where you stop really excelling. So it is a process of continuous learning. And I wouldn't say necessarily leadership skills. We always talk about leadership skills because if everyone becomes a leader, who'll become a worker? So that's another debate I have with many of these programs because, there are always programs on leadership, how to lead, but how to actually run an organization, because it's really the workers who are leading. It's not the leaders. If you didn't have good workers, what would the good leaders do? So I call myself also a worker. I even call myself a leader. And I have an empathetic team that understands what we want to do. It's a shared vision. It's a shared goal. And the constant pursuit of improvement, like circulating back to your question about constant learning. Because times are evolving. Things are changing. Students are very different today compared to what they were about 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So it's a continuous process of learning and evolving, and you have to take inputs from everyone. So whether it's for a stakeholder who's your student who may be in kindergarten, what his experiences in a classroom, or it's your PhD student in your classroom, so what their experience. So it's a full gamut of experiences that you come across. And there's a lot of learning just by listening to people, and especially when you listen. So I'm a good listener. So usually when there's a problem, I always say that I'm the solution. And because people have problems, people have an ability to criticize, be negative, be pessimistic. But I like to build a team which is positive, which is inclusive, where people's views are respected, people's opinions are respected. It's not about the right solution or the wrong solution. It's the intention to try to do something good. And if they fail doing that, there's always another opportunity to be better. So that's how my team really.
That's a wonderful approach. I think taking a proactive approach before sort of complaining is something that I think the younger generation needs to look into. In fact, that's a good segue to my next question, which is a lot of these younger leaders, entrepreneurs, and people who are trying to make a difference in the industry, as we know, there is now a lack of attention span. Right. So I think they give up too early because they feel like they're not creating enough of an impact, right? Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, there is somebody like you who, on a daily basis or on an hourly basis creates a huge impact on the nation, on the nation's economy, and the students or staff or whatever it may be. What advice would you give maybe a younger student or a younger person who's looking to get into this now? And maintain that discipline in that sense.
So I think children today are very intelligent. So an institute can play only a certain role in how they shape up a child's future. But I think learning starts at home. So my message would be more to the parents and of course to the children, to the students, because I feel they're matured now faster than they were maturing maybe 10 years ago. So they understand. But there also needs to be a lot of empathy in how the generation gap has evolved. Because many of the old generation don't necessarily understand how this generation looks. It's a fast generation. It's a connected generation. They want action immediately. And patience is something that was taught to us. And patience is in short sense today. Yes. Everyone, it's an instant generation. And you can't blame them because things are happening at a rapid pace. Even in business, if I were to do business in a traditional manner, it may perhaps not work because of the way tech is shaping up, because of the way the youngsters are thinking. So I wouldn't say there's a right or wrong way again. And maybe I contradict myself sometimes, but a system that works is the system that should be allowed to evolve.
Right.
Whether you agree or disagree with it is a different thing. And my, advice to youngsters would be patient, definitely.
Yeah.
You have to be patient and keep trying.
Yeah.
So there's no one fixed formula for success. So you could try A, you could try B, you could try C. And today you have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Earlier you had very limited areas of fields where you could do something. But today the youngsters are being taken seriously. They have many opportunities. I mean, look at yourself. You're a bright young guy. Right? The first time I met you, I was so impressed. So this is the kind of talent that there is.
Yeah.
And the talent has to be allowed to evolve.
Yeah.
So it's just not about giving them advice. I think you should allow them, give them opportunities, give them platforms where they can create their own ventures, become entrepreneurs, and allow them to fail essentially. And don't be afraid of failure.
Yeah.
Because only success is a series of failures. This is how I see it. And it's not that I have not failed in life. I failed several times in life, but because I kept trying. And there were points when I was low, I was disappointed, but I was never depressed. It was only a failure. And I said, okay, we'll overcome this. So I think that's what the youngsters need to empire. So that's very important.
So I think this correlates quite well with your previous answer of come to the solution, right? Which is take a proactive approach, come with the solution, but do it in a way where you are able to solve your problem rather than just sitting back and saying, now what was it? Right? Which is, I think, if kids are watching this, the right way to put it would be success is inevitable. It's just some waiting here. And I think that's a fantastic way to put it.
I also want to interject a bit here and talk about mental health. Because mental health has become a big issue amongst the youngsters. It's a serious issue. And I don't think you can ignore it. So I think parents also need to be aware of what their children are going through. But I think the solution to this is building the resilience of children at a younger age. So when we grew up, times were very different. And the empathy was also very different. When the new generation is growing up, times are different. People's understanding of them is different. So I wouldn't say they are weaker, but I feel at a younger age, you need to imbibe some strong values in these individuals where they're able to face the horrors of the world, or rather the adversities that come across them. So I'm not saying that mental issues will not come up. They will certainly come up. But you should have the tools to handle that. Absolutely. And I think if you toughen the kids at a younger age, they're better able to handle it at an older age. Peer pressure works, the company they keep works, they're constantly surrounded by social media, messages being bombarded onto them. So all that has a psychological effect. So if they're able to overcome that, and that can only happen at the learning stage. So if young children are groomed into this concept of there are failures in life, there are adversities in life, and that's not the end of it. So I think we'll have much stronger kids. So some teaching in our institutions which imbibe these values or make it a part of the curriculum where it makes kids tougher. They're not afraid of failures. That doesn't mean you try. The other point is people will take everything for granted. But I wanted to touch on this mental issue because I see a lot of children go through this and it hurts because it's their age to enjoy, it's their age to evolve, it's their age to do things. Why should they give worried?
So I think that's a fantastic point. In fact, I spent a bit of time at the university, as I'm sure you know. And I saw one out of most of many things that I saw was the fact that you were allowing children to try, right? Because I saw, people, obviously you have the best faculty of from most of things, right? And I saw, your faculty sitting with students, taking presentations, taking them understanding, you're now competing with, for example, IIT Gohan, right? Now, how are you going to portray yourself? What is the pitch going to be like? If you don't fail, what are the four things you're going to do, right? And I think it's very impressive to see that it's a trickle down, where it's your ideologies, which are then also incorporated quite well into the entire organization, which is really quite a fantastic thing to see, and you don't see it quite often. And I think that's something that that should be appreciated when I see it. ADYPU and ADYPG has recently been in the news quite a bit with collaborations with international institutions. If you could touch base on that, say what is the sort of idea behind that? Why a lot of international collaborations are this year?
Yeah, so traditional collaborations have been going on for decades. So we have collaborative ventures with universities overseas, where we have training programs, where we have student exchange, where we have faculty exchange. So those are the traditional programs that are going on. But what we want to do now is focus more on research and development in terms of collaborations. Because it is a collaborative work. And because of the tech access, it's getting easy for people to collaborate from across the world. So certain expertise exists in a certain part of the world, but they may not have access to those kind of laboratories, facilities, or institutions. So those people also getting an opportunity to interact with us. So, whereas at the same time, we may not have the facilities that some first world countries have. We have an opportunity to connect with them. I think those collaborations are taking place.
Yeah.
We are focusing more on tech, quantum communication. We are also working in the defense sector, so aerospace sector, the automobile sector. So you name it, everything. So all the new cutting edge tech that is from artificial intelligence. And, so I think strategic collaborations is very important in today's connected world, because it gives a global perspective to the students, to the organization, and also gives our staff an ability to connect and interact with peers across the world.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of collaborations happening. Even locally, we do a lot of collaborations. We have collaborations with the IIT Guwahati for testing out facilities. So besides the local collaborations, we also have international collaborations. So it's a mix of collaborations. And I think eventually it will all be a connected sort of a system. It will not be one university offering everything.
Yeah.
You need sit for 1 year here. Second year you will be in IIT somewhere. Third year you would be maybe in MIT in the US. And fourth year you could come out with a degree from some other, maybe online, the AR or VR platforms.
Yeah. Wonderful. So I think that's a great way to put it. The way I look at it is that the group is massive. Right? There is, even if I'm looking at it just from basic internet search, there may be 50 to 100 companies as part of the entire group. A lot of times, a lot of people struggle with just keeping up with their own days, which is a lot less stressful than yours. Right? What would your sort of advice be? How do you manage it? How do you
I'm happy to use the word stress.
Yeah.
So stress is something which I can't deny. There is certainly a lot of stress when I'm handling this, but I think it's a high octane job which gives me great pleasure. And I remember my father's words that it's something that you love doing, then you're not working. So I love what I'm doing. So I'm not essentially working. That said, I take a lot of pressure because life is short. You have only 80, 90 years to live, and you need to do so much. So, but what we do is essentially we ideate. So we ideate at the group level. We plan everything right to the minute detail. Things are put in play in terms of construction, building design, flow. Then the teams are selected. So we have robust systems to manage our teams. And once the team is put in place, we take a lot of time putting the team in place. So, for example, if a vice chancellor have to be put in a system, he will go through a number of rounds of interviews. Of course, there are processes by the government as well. So we have to follow those processes.
Ajeenkya sir, over the past 20, 25 minutes, you've given us a very in-depth and I think a very unique insight into how an educator like you or an innovator like you, or visionary like you, spends their days or, thinks about the growth of the world, of the country. For this last phase, this last bit of this interview, I wanted to give you the opportunity to sort of portray your ideologies as a thought leader, right? As an industry leader, as an industry expert in this field that you've been in for decades. at our level, it's easy to ask questions, but it may not be the right questions. And I think it's important for us as just listeners and the community to learn from people like you, just your thoughts and your vision. So if you would like to take it forward, give us a good closure on this.
So I think I've been in the education space for a long time.
Yeah.
Also the healthcare space for quite some time. And I feel with technology now, education is getting democratized.
Yeah.
Because my father always had a dream that education should be available to people in all parts of the country.
Yeah.
And mainly they were deprived of education because of lack of facilities, or because of their lack of ability to fund it. Because they didn't have the resources.
Right.
So I think with technology, education can now reach door to door. And I literally call it the democratization of education, because it will be available in clienting, which will be available free.
Yeah.
And perhaps with a greater quality and value than even traditional educational institutions. So eventually I see a very utopian world where people will learn at their own pace what they like.
Yeah.
And degrees would not really be important. It will be your skills, because if your skill can get you employment, if your skill can allow you to set up a business, which in turn employs another 10 or 20 people,
Yeah.
I think that's how the world will evolve. So it's a very exciting and interesting time. It might be contrary to the developments that we are doing, but eventually this will happen.
Yeah.
The future is based on tech. And I feel it should be what should be the case for the future, because every child should have an education, every child should have a knowledge, every child should have access to those resources. And we have a great future. I see a great future with AI and all the technological revolution.
Wonderful.
And I used to dream about this. I used to talk about being a scientist and rewind back. And I think somewhere that dream is coming through, not through me, but through how tech is evolving, to how my students who are graduating and going out in the real world and making research. I didn't become a scientist. We created a few.
Yeah.
Even if those few scientists create a change, that will be mission accomplished.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Great. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Dr. Ajeenkya DY Patil. My name is Arsh. Thank you so much for watching Storymakers. We'll see you next time.